The anime starts with our main character, Tomokiwi Kanata, being brutally attacked by a wild lady who seems to derive pleasure from it. Despite the pain, Kanata remains silent, his lifeless eyes fixated on the moon above. The lady calls out his name, but Kanata is indifferent, as he knows he is already dead. Upon awakening, Kanata finds himself face to face with an old goblin. Bewildered by his own existence and the presence of the green creature, the old goblin decides to name them Gobkichi and Gobru respectively. Kanata, now Gobru, expresses disappointment at the lack of effort in the naming process. The old goblin then stuffs a bug into Gobru's mouth, prompting a groggy response. The next day, Gobru finds himself surrounded by other goblins, realizing he too has become one of them. The realization of his transformation into a helpless goblin overwhelms him, leading to tears. As days pass, Gobru notices rapid growth in his body, realizing that goblins mature much faster than expected. Determined to survive, he embraces his new life with optimism. On the fourth day, the old goblin gives them some bugs and informs everyone that this will be the last food they'll get from him. He will no longer provide food. Gobru and the goblins enjoy their last free meal. Stepping outside, Gobru takes in the sight of one sun shining in a blue sky, yet it's filled with strange, unsettling birds, and there are unfamiliar plants all around, signaling that this world is unlike anything he's known. Gobkichi steps out too and also marvel at the sights around them, both admitting it's their first time seeing the outside world. Taking a moment, Gobru introduces himself and teaches Gobkichi his name, forming a bond between them. Their goal, to hunt for food. As they explore, they stumble upon a horned rabbit grazing peacefully. With Gobkichi's help, Gobru positions himself strategically, ready to strike. As the rabbit approaches, Gobru swiftly brings it down with a well-aimed blow from his stick. However, their joy is short-lived when Gobkichi moves to devour the catch alone. Frustrated, Gobru insists they share, resorting to gentle persuasion with his stick to enforce the lesson of cooperation. Gobkichi, not far behind, marvels at the unfamiliar world outside, expressing his awe at its newness. Sharing the same sentiment, on the sixth day, Gobru and Gobkichi met Gobmi. She seemed impressed by their hunting skills and ability to eat horned rabbits. Gobmi shared a sad story about someone who was killed by a creature named Gobru. It was quite surprising. Gobkichi wanted some praise too, but Gobmi told him he was just average. The leader asked Gobmi if she wanted to join their hunt the next day. She happily agreed and hugged Gobru. However, they couldn't go hunting when the time came because it was raining. So, they postponed the hunt until the following day. Gobru used this indoor time to check what supplies they had. He also tried to make a new weapon. Gobru found some ore and began refining it with a rock. While he worked, he couldn't help but think about the human captives nearby and their unfortunate situation. He tried to push those thoughts aside, and Gobkichi helped by starting a conversation and telling him he seemed motivated. The seasoned goblin observes that Gobru might level up faster than anticipated upon a closer look. This is the first time the young one hears about this leveling idea. Gobji educates him about the gestures used to display one's level. Gobru taps his head, and the system notifies him that Gobji is at level 86. The elder reveals that upon reaching level 100, one can evolve into a more advanced being. This achievement is quite rare, as only 1 out of every dozen goblins manages to accomplish it. Gobru notes mentally that goblins age rapidly, as Gobji, despite being in his 22nd, appears to be on his last legs. The old goblin informs Gobru that the goblins in their prime will return soon. When they do, the newborns will witness what an evolved hobgoblin looks like. However, Gobji is more interested in seeing what kind of prey they will bring this time. It has been 8 days since Gobru's reincarnation. Gobmi joins them on their hunt and hits a monster snake with a slingshot. This provides an opportunity for the boss to take it down. They employ their new tactics to hunt a variety of prey. Gobmi acts as support, while Gobru takes the mid-range position, and Gobkichi leads the charge with his formidable power. They successfully skin a snake they hunted, allowing them to savor their catch. Gobmi becomes emotional, expressing her dissatisfaction with only eating fruits like a herbivore. The leader of the group takes a bite of the snake and gains the ability to produce venom, along with resistance to it and other skills. He recognizes the snake as high level due to the new abilities he acquired. Gobru prevents Gobkichi from consuming the poisonous head, relying on his resistance. Despite the challenges, Gobru is determined to survive in his second life. On the 9th and 10th days, the trio prepares their gear and embarks on their usual hunting trip. They encounter bats in a cave, initially overwhelming them, but Gobru uses his evil eye to stun them, making it easier to defeat them. During the feast, Gobru gains new abilities like echolocation and vamphilia, impressing their peers who wish for such nutritious food. On the 12th night, jealous goblins attempt to ambush Gobru while he sleeps, but his search ability alerts him, enabling him to fend off the attackers. Unfortunately, one of them succumbs to the venom used by Gobru. Witnessing this, the others back down. Out of frustration, Gobmi begins choking one of the defeated goblins, prompting the boss to intervene. On the 13th day, the trio executes a well-coordinated attack, successfully defeating their first orc. After consuming its meat, Gobru gains the ability to speak the orc language, along with other traits. Feeling generous, he suggests sharing some meat with the others in the cave, realizing the importance of unity after the recent attack. Initially hesitant, the other goblins eventually accept the offer, thanking Gobru for his kindness. Reflecting on his changed behavior, Gobru realizes that his perspective on helping others has evolved since his previous life. That night, as he sleeps, the system notifies him that he has fulfilled special conditions and offers him the chance to evolve into a hobgoblin, which he eagerly accepts. Awakening on the 14th morning, Gobru notices his increased size and appearance resembling his previous form. Gobkichi also notices his transformation, and Gobmi praises their enhanced appearance. They are surprised by their rapid progress, achieving a rank up in less than a month since their birth, an unprecedented feat. Gobkichi wants to gauge his newfound strength, so he proposes a sparring match with Gobru. They venture to a secluded part of the forest where they engage in a fierce brawl. Despite Gobkichi's impressive power, Gobru, the goblin Chad, emerges victorious. Their duel is interrupted when Gobru senses impending danger. Aware that Gobmi was observing them, Gobru calls her forth and instructs her to wield the crossbow they crafted earlier. Meanwhile, a pack of wolves begins hunting horned rabbits, driving them into goblin territory. After feasting on the rabbits, the wolves spot an orc and target him as their next prey. The trio, observing from a distance, sees an opportunity to test their evolved strength against the wolves. Gobru signals Gobmi to initiate the attack by targeting the wolf pack's leader with a well-aimed shot from her crossbow. As chaos erupts, Gobkichi and Gobru engage the wolves head-on, swiftly overpowering them. The absence of their leader leaves the black wolves disorganized and vulnerable. Despite a fierce struggle, Gobmi and Gobkichi emerge victorious, standing triumphantly over the defeated wolves. Although the wolf leader attempts to rise again, Gobmi delivers the final blow, ensuring their victory. Gobru wastes no time sinking his teeth into the meat, immediately gaining new abilities: Wild Hunt, Hides Armor, and Order. These skills grant him military leadership prowess. Together with Gobkichi and Gobmi, they present their impressive catch to the rest of the goblin horde, who are duly impressed. Gobru, however, seeks no gratitude. He merely expects them to match their hunting efforts. Some of the horde members express concern about meeting such a high quota. Worried, they plead with Gobru not to punish them. Recognizing their lack of combat skills, Gobru decides to teach them how to defend themselves and even offers to instruct them in weapon crafting. Encouraging them to stand up as comrades, Gobru earns their admiration and loyalty. They hail him as a good leader, chanting his name in unison. Whether it's due to the order ability he acquired or some other influence, Gobru feels a sense of clarity about his path forward, to grow stronger, lead his comrades, and achieve his goals. With a sly grin, he contemplates his secret plans. By the 17th day, progress is evident, but there's still much to learn. Returning to the cave, Gobru is pleased to find that Gobmi has also evolved into a hobgoblin. She flashes him a cute smile. On the 17th day, Old Man Gobchi is awakened from his sleep and given the sad news of the death of all the human female captives. Gobru explains that they died by their own hands after drinking a potion that caused them to fall into an eternal sleep. The two goblins give the humans a respectful memorial. After a few days, Gob is criticized for lagging behind during a training session by the leader of her generation. While they run, Gobru reflects on how he gained abilities by consuming many monsters. However, they notice a group of unfamiliar people carrying weapons approaching in the distance. Gobru prepares his swords and moves towards them, but Gabji stops him to inform that the approaching group are actually raiders targeting their settlement. Gobru's generation. The raiders return with a successful raid, pleasing Old Man Gobji, who begins to commend their leader, Hopkin. The raiders not only bring back goods but also 5 human females. The elderly goblin becomes excited at their lively appearance, commenting on how convenient it is that they have arrived to replace the deceased captives. It's known that goblin DNA is dominant, so regardless of the species they mate with, the offspring will always be goblins. Although Gobru understands the desire to reproduce, he disagrees with the methods they use, and his disapproval is evident on his face. He approaches the leader with a stern expression and asks if he can take charge of the humans. However, the alpha male is offended by this question and grabs Gobru in a confrontational manner. This interaction creates tension in the camp, leading both the old and new generations to draw their weapons, preparing for conflict. Old Man Gobji finds himself in the middle, feeling confused as he witnesses the unfolding situation. Two female goblins intervene to defuse the situation and prevent a civil war. Since Gobru is unfamiliar with them, he inquires about their identities. The old man introduces the one with purple hair as Hubsato, and the other as Hobbs the Mage. Hubsato suggests that the leaders from each generation engage in a duel to settle the matter. The winner will have the authority to make decisions for the village. Both parties agree to the terms, and as they prepare for the fight, Hobkin agrees to the duel without weapons, aiming to teach young Gobru a lesson. The scene abruptly shifts to Hobkin, who is bound and battered, resembling someone who has endured a brutal fight. Old man Gobji is astonished by the young goblin's skill, surprised that he had been concealing such power all along. Since the webs he used to immobilize his opponent were generated from his own body, he is declared the winner. This skill was acquired from the demon spider, not Spider-Man, to clarify. Even the two female goblins from the previous generation are impressed by Gobru's abilities. The new leader addresses the old generation, inquiring if they have any objections to him assuming the role of chief. However, given their former leader's decisive defeat, they have no option but to acquiesce. Later, the new chief converses with the human captives, assuring them that he has instructed others not to harm them. He expresses his intentions to treat them well and promises to ensure their safe return to their villages. One of the captives asks what they need to do in return for this, to which he replies that he simply seeks their human knowledge. He learns that the females were part of a business travel group ambushed by the older goblins, resulting in the men being killed and the women captured. After hearing their story, the women begin to cry, but Gobru doesn't want to involve himself in their tears and leaves them to it. The next day, he brings them breakfast, and the red-headed woman greets him with a smile. The women seem happier since the chief assured their safety, so they enjoy the food he prepared. They each have specific roles. The girl with short hair is both an appraiser and a smith. The two blonde sisters are cooks, the girl with glasses is a chemist, and the red-headed woman is a rookie warrior. Despite her current lack of strength, Gobru plans to train her. During the next day's training session, some of the older goblins try to challenge the new leader, so he asserts his authority by disciplining them. Gobru decides to prioritize training over hunting for now and wants everyone to adhere to the rules he's established. Remarkably, he accomplishes all this within 28 days. By day 31, Gobru sets a good example for the group by sparring with Gobkichi. The onlookers are amazed by their intensity, while Hopkin sulks in a corner. Later that night, while the chief sleeps, Hopkin and a few others sneak into the area where the human females are held. Before they can carry out their intentions, Gobru appears and confronts them, subduing them with his fists and sword. The women wake up to find Gobru has captured the intruders. He knocks out Hopkin and apologizes to the females for frightening them. The villagers gather as Gobru orders Gobkichi to drag the criminals outside. He instructs him to wake the others and bring them to witness the punishment he's about to administer as an example. In the rain, the clan watches as Gobru disciplines those who refuse to listen to him. Hopkin received the harshest punishment since he was the leader and the former boss. Gobru turns to the people and asks if they now understand the village rules. They all nod fearfully, clearly grasping the message. With that, the leader dismisses them. By the following day, Hopkin, who received the worst punishment, had passed away. Later, a few of them go hunting and encounter a trihorn horse, which proves challenging to take down. Despite the difficulty, they succeed and enjoy the horse meat. Consuming the flesh triggers a change in Gobru's system, granting him new abilities. He tests one of them, the triple thrust skill, on a nearby tree and is impressed by the result. This skill triples the impact of a single strike for extra damage. The next day, Gob has evolved into a hobgoblin, and she is pleased with the transformation. Meanwhile, Gobkichi has been appointed captain of the armored fighters. Gobmi leads the ranged unit, and Hubsato oversees the mobility-oriented lightly armored force. Gobai manages rear support, handling various tasks. Hobsea, the village soul mage, leads the magic force, serving as a one-woman army. With things going well, the chief decides to venture deeper into the woods to hunt prey not typically found in their region. He encounters a trihorn horse and uses a special magic attack to swiftly eliminate it, sparking his excitement to journey further north into the wilderness. A trail of blood reminds him of a warning from Old Man Gobji during his childhood. He cautioned the children never to approach or enter the northern woods because of the monstrous creature known as the Red Bear. Despite the warning, Gobru faces the creature head-on, choosing to confront it rather than flee. In another part of the village, the residents grow concerned as their leader has not returned. Gob asks around if anyone has seen him, but they all claim ignorance about his whereabouts. Meanwhile, in the forest, Gobru summons the magic spear he used earlier and hurls it at the bear. The bear sacrifices one of its hands to avoid the fatal blow, impressing Gobru with its instinct. The battle commences, and Gabru holds his own against the formidable opponent. He dodges numerous attacks and retaliates with his weapon. However, the bear's tough body proves challenging to penetrate. Gabru tries to ensnare it with his webs, but the bear breaks free and unleashes flames from its mouth. Despite the unexpected fire-breathing ability, Gabru manages to evade, sustaining some injuries. He quickly heals himself and resumes his offensive. This time, he surrounds himself with water to counteract the intense flames, creating an opportunity to thrust his weapon into the bear's mouth. For a moment, victory seems within reach, but the bear hurls him across the field. Despite the looming threat of defeat, Gabru refuses to yield, driven by his determination to defeat and consume the bear. With sheer willpower, he launches a final assault, ultimately vanquishing the creature. Although he sustains significant injuries in the process, he achieves his objective of defeating and consuming the bear. After consuming some of the meat, Gabru gains more ability, but his injuries cause him to collapse. In a moment reminiscent of a solo level up in a game, the system notifies him that he has surpassed the level limits and offers him the chance to evolve into a rare ogre species, which he accepts. Upon awakening, he notices a change in his appearance and realizes he has transformed into an ogre. Upon returning to the village, the villagers mistake him for an attacking ogre due to his unfamiliar appearance. Despite his attempts to explain, he struggles to communicate with them. Gami arrives at the scene and recognizes him as Gabru, surprising everyone. Despite her frustration at his prolonged absence, she inadvertently hurts herself when she tries to kick him. Once the misunderstanding is cleared up, the villagers are excited and impressed by Gabru's transformation into an ogre. Some time later, everyone is still amazed by Gabru's evolution, noticing how much bigger and stronger he appears. Gabru heads to check on the human women, but he's closely followed by Gabmi and the redhead for some reason. As expected, the humans are terrified of him initially, but he manages to calm them down by reassuring them it's him. Gabmi, however, seems upset about something as she pinches his leg. The blacksmith is disappointed to see her axe, which she made for him, wrecked. But she reveals she's made her knife using a special spirit stone. Gabru praises her, but finds the other girls pinching him even harder. The twins need help with their cooking duty, so Gabru explains he'll assign a few goblins to assist them. He's impressed that they've adapted to being around goblins so quickly, remarking they would make great wives. He jokingly wonders if they want to be his wives, and they playfully call him a sly dog. Gabru is pleased by their smiles, but once again, the redhead and Gobmeat seem more upset. Gabru then discovers that the alchemist has made poison. Initially, it was for self-defense, but now that there is a gob she can trust like Gabru, she has no use for it. Gabru picks her up and admires her smile as well, but he can instantly feel the murderous intent coming from the other girls. Having spent all his time cheering up the girls, Gabru now feels exhausted in spirit. On day 36, Gabru realizes he can no longer train with the others. He has become so powerful that even his lightest punches leave regular goblins in critical condition. Even Gabukich's armor couldn't withstand them. As Gabru heals a nearly dead goblin, he wonders what's wrong with Gabukichi. Gabukichi says it's nothing as he goes to hunt, but Gabru can tell that something's amiss. Besides that, Gabru has started to notice that Hapsado and Gabumi have begun hunting together. The red-headed woman is training alone, and Gabai continues her hobby of mining for spirit stones. As for Gabru, we see that he can still use his missing arm like it's made of slime, thanks to the fact that he once consumed a slime. Gaburu wonders if Gabukichi will be okay, but Haps points out that it depends on how much effort Gabukichi puts in. The two argue as Gaburu wishes Haps would give him back his book, and he reflects on how he was finally able to have a relaxing day. On day 37, Gabai panics as she finds a little creature in really bad shape. Gabru does his best to heal her, but she's losing too much blood, so he decides that he will have to get some blood-producing medicine from the alchemist. Luckily it works, so they introduce themselves to the creature, whom they call a carbuncle. The carbuncle introduces herself as Latana, and reveals that she was attacked by humans. The gem on her head is a high-class material, so its price is said to be as high as 1 billion gold. Latana asks that they lend her their power, and begs them to get rid of the humans that attacked her. Gabru is familiar with the history of the carbuncles. Their master, named Velvet, was a famous legendary magician, and he created them to watch over his secret treasure den. Latana explains that when she was attacked, her core was broken, shortening her lifespan. In the secret treasure room lie legendary class items that Velvet collected throughout his entire life. Latana reveals that her master hates humans. He would prefer that the goblins take all the treasure rather than the human adventurers. They can have everything, so Gabru declares that they will go. The blacksmith girl gives him his new dagger, but he reassures the frightened girls not to worry, as he won't blatantly harm the humans. His job is simply to get them to leave. but he warns that he might have to use force if they don't listen. They then proceed through the hole Gabai made, as it leads to the treasure room. Gabbro decides to try to persuade the humans to leave, so he instructs the others to hide. He encounters the adventurers who are searching for the treasure room, but they mistake him for just another monster to defeat. They attack him, but are quickly surprised when he detects the presence of their invisible assassin. Gabbro explains to them that this is someone's house, and what they are doing is robbery and murder. It's evident that they feel no guilt, so Gabbro concludes that they are beyond redemption. The ignorant humans are shocked that an ogre can speak English so well, and Gabbro mentions that fortunately for them, he also has a good heart. They refuse to listen and attack him instead, but Gabbro effortlessly dodges their attacks and once again urges them to leave. When they still refuse, Gabbro assesses the situation. The humans have 3 mages in their back line wielding a lot of high-class magic items. Unfortunately for them, Gabbro observes that they rely too heavily on level enhancement to boost their fighting prowess. However, their lackluster fighting technique renders this ineffective, and Gabbro easily overwhelms them. Suddenly, one mage rejoices, believing he has decapitated Gabbro with his spell. Their shock is palpable when it becomes evident that the attack only infuriated Gabbro. Though he has spared them until now, Gabbro's patience has worn thin. The humans tremble as they realize their level 3 magic spell was futile. Gabbro declares an end to his leniency. Signaling the others to attack, they spring into action. Drawing his blade, Gabbro admonishes the humans for not seizing the chance to leave earlier. Later, Gabbro reveals that they dispatched the adventurers and consumed them, acquiring their traits, including those of an assassin, high wizard, and enchanter. But that's not all. Among the adventurers were high-level individuals with valuable loot, including a rare ring and an item storage bag filled with items, which Gabbro devours as well. Among these is a cheat item box capable of holding an incredible number of items. They then proceed to the treasure room, where Latana expresses her gratitude. She explains that her master, Velvet, excelled with spirits, hence the abundance of spirit stones in the area. Wishing Gabbro good health, she bids farewell and disappears. Touched by the moment, Gabbro consumes the gem she left behind. Gab Kichai checks on Gabai, who reassures him she's fine. They share a moment of silence for Latana, after which Gabbro decides they'll distribute the treasure among themselves. He's impressed by his item box's capacity, even after storing all the loot. Not wanting to leave Velvet's body behind, Gabbro cremates it, revealing a gauntlet in the process. Upon trying it on, Gabbro is astonished when it attaches itself to him, becoming his new arm. The others are equally amazed, and Gabbro demonstrates its capability, finding it as functional as his original arm. Deciding to celebrate their successful mission, Gabbro hosts a party. On day 38, he evaluates the loot with the blacksmith, discovering its remarkable rarity and power. The next day, Gabbro equips the hobgoblins in their group with magical items. As for himself, Gabbro selects the Vermilion Spear and 2 other legendary class artifacts, bringing his total to 3. Legendary class items rank just below Phantasm class, with the potential to grant immense power. Later, they gather ingredients for bear soup, and Gabbro is pleased to witness everyone's growing strength. On day 40, Garbo organizes a tournament to select the hobgoblin leader, excluding himself, and establishes a mercenary group. The following day, Garbo sets out to encounter unfamiliar monsters. His first discovery is a golden spider, which drops valuable-looking items upon defeat. Consuming them enables him to create gold string, potentially for crafting accessories. Next, he encounters some red deer, but consuming one yields no new traits. Further exploration leads him to a grand tree, where he learns about dryads from Gobji. Dryads are exclusively female, and allure males from other intelligent species for sustenance. They are irresistibly beautiful, leading men to succumb to their charms. Gabbro shares this information because he encounters one of these dryads, who admires his muscular physique and expresses a desire to converse. Gabbro struggles against the allure of the dryad's charm, knowing that if he succumbs, she will use him for sustenance. He must remain vigilant and not let his guard down at any cost. Determined to resist, Gabbro decides to utilize a new ability he has never used before, known as libido. After a strenuous 5 hours of consuming the dryad, Gabbro acquires a trait called Dryad's Blessing. Despite still being alive, the dryad urges Gabbro to return soon, but he casually brushes off her request, saying he'll consider it. Later, Gabbro takes a bath in the lake and is suddenly surrounded by lizardmen. Asserting his invincibility for the day, Gabbro effortlessly dispatches them and even defeats another monster. On day 42, Gabbro discovers that 2 goblins possess a talent for magic. They are promptly integrated into Habs's platoon. However, Gabbro is unsettled by Habs's cunning grin, which raises concerns for him. Some time later, Gabbro senses someone approaching and discovers it's a group of noble elves. Humans are planning to attack them to steal their treasure, so the elves have come seeking help from the goblin. One elf in particular has a rude demeanor, but they're offering several months' worth of food for the goblin village in exchange for assistance. Gobji sees this as a favorable offer, but to their surprise, Gabru declines. He's not concerned about the potential conflict. He just wants the elves to be more genuine when seeking help. The rude elf threatens Gabru, but Gabru's intimidating glare strikes fear into their hearts. He warns them to signal their hidden archers to stand down. Despite their attempts to attack him, the elves realize they can't harm Gabru. The elf leader orders them to cease their assault, and Gabru explains that he's refusing their offer simply because he's not in the mood. However, he emphasizes that the goblins also inhabit this forest, and if the humans pose a threat, he wouldn't mind joining forces. Gabru impresses everyone by wielding his legendary weapon, although he doesn't fully comprehend its workings. When he stabs something with it, he can conjure an endless supply of spears that can reach up to 100 meters away. The elves, frightened by this display, flee in terror, and Gabru hopes they'll stay away for a while. On day 45, Gabru hunts down 20 gray slimes and consumes their cores, gaining various abilities such as fluid regeneration and auto-replication. He experiments with auto-replication, creating a miniature version of himself from his blood. This miniature Gabru shares his senses, leading Gabru to a clever idea. On day 46, he has the girls craft clothing lined with his blood, turning them into transmitters for emergency. On day 47, Gabru's scouts report that the elves have returned, but Gabru responds by unleashing a deafening roar from his cave, paralyzing the elves with fear. Emerging without a word, he captures them. The elf leader, wounded by Gabru's disrespect, demands retribution, but the other elves apologize for their leader's behavior. Gabru decides their leader is as good as dead but offers the rest a chance to survive. They'll face the goblins in a mock battle, and those who win will be spared. Gabru's decision is just, stating that survival requires the elves to fight with all their might. In the end, 6 out of the 23 elves are defeated, all of them men. However, Gabru privately admits to favoring women and subtly influencing the fights to spare them. After consuming the defeated elves, Gabru gains more abilities. He then informs the survivors that they are now prisoners, despite their hopes of being released. Gabji sees them as entertainment, but is reminded by Gabru that there are rules against mistreating prisoners. Although Gabji agrees to follow the rules, he still pleads out of desperation. Gabru proceeds to administer the final punishment to the elf leader. On day 48, Gobkichi reaches level 100, and on day 49, everyone is astonished to see him evolve into a special variant with a dark red color and iron heart skin. Blessings from the demigods of flame and war. Gobkichi points out that Gabru hasn't had a sparring partner since becoming an ogre, and Gobkichi feared he'd never catch up. Gobkichi has changed, so they engage in a match outside. Although Gabru still dominates, Gobkichi impressively holds his ground. Eventually, Gabru wins, realizing Gobkichi is indeed his rival. That night, exhausted Gabru encounters a mysterious figure, who apologizes and presents a gift as a token of appreciation. Gabru wakes up bewildered, unsure of what transpired. On day 51, Gabru wonders if Gobkichi's determination influenced others, as 4 new hobgoblins emerge. Among them, one is destined to be a mage, while another will become a cleric named Gobji, dedicated to healing. Additionally, Haps undergoes evolution, ascending into the Lord family as a half-spell lord. Gabru notices the markings on Haps's arms resemble his own. Haps, brimming with mana, wants to test her newfound strength outside. She unleashes a powerful fire attack, showing she can do at least 20 more of those. Despite being only a half-spell lord, she's expected to evolve into a full one soon. Gabru provides her with new gear to match her evolution, reassuring the envious Sato that she'll catch up eventually. Gabru notices evolutions happening more frequently and suspects that the goblins' environment during their early life influences their growth rate. While it's great to see everyone getting stronger, Gabru acknowledges that not everyone in the village is as fortunate. On day 52, the older goblins express their discontent. Despite their efforts to keep up, they feel left behind by the younger ones. They decide to leave the village, and Gabru surprises them by choosing not to punish them with death for their betrayal. Gabru clarifies that the departing goblins aren't stealing anything, so it's up to them if they want to leave. Surprisingly, Gabru gives them a parting gift, a magical knife made of mithril with an incredibly sharp edge. On day 53, Gabru discovers a human killed by an orc. Despite the grim situation, after consuming the human, Gabru gains an interesting ability called Monster Tamer. He hopes to use this ability to honor the deceased. That night, Gabru is delighted when the alchemist successfully brews booze. On day 54, Gabru announces the departure of the older generation of goblins and invites anyone else to join them, but no one else opts to leave. They celebrate with a toast. On day 55, Gabru works on producing earrings infused with his blood to serve as communication devices. By day 56, Gabru confirms that the earrings work perfectly and makes enough for everyone. On day 57, Gabu defeats a Trihorn, and Gabru successfully tests his monster tamer ability acquired from the human, making the Trihorn their first familiar. On the same day, Gabru gains a gray bear familiar, while the leader of a black wolf pack becomes a pet and bodyguard for the human women. On day 59, Gabru is astonished to see the red-headed girl, once weak, now transformed into a powerful warrior. During their meal, he is surprised when she reveals her new role as a shadow soldier. Gabru explains that she must consume monsters periodically to sustain herself, leading to remarkable growth. Later, Gabru learns of human attacks on goblins in the forest, signaling an impending war. On day 60, Gabru senses kobolds being pursued by an undetectable threat. Upon their arrival at the cave, they confront magically animated skeletons. Despite attempts by God Miai's archers, the skeletons are impervious to arrows. Gabukichi fears the situation will escalate. Gabru's search ability reveals a singular source behind the skeletons, likely their creator. Realizing that cutting the skeletons is ineffective, they resort to smashing them apart, which proves highly successful. Despite their efforts, the sheer numbers overwhelm them. Gabru decides to take matters into his own hands. As he counts down, Gabru charges through the skeleton army, finishing 3 seconds ahead of schedule. He destroys the monster generating the skeletons, gaining the ability to summon lower undead and high-tier equipment materialization, among others. Afterward, the kobolds express regret for their error. They inadvertently unearthed Velvet's treasury, previously invaded by the goblins, and awakened its guardian, the Greater Skeleton. Desperate to survive, they sought refuge in Gabru's cave, known for the terrifying black ogre residing within. These kobolds now pledge allegiance to Gabru, acknowledging his past conflicts with their kind. Despite this, they are deeply thankful for his intervention, recognizing the natural law of the strong prevailing over the weak. They relinquish control of their fate to Gabru, acknowledging their debt to him for saving their lives. Gabru accepts their gratitude and ensures their injuries are tended to by their cleric. Surveying the diverse assembly in his cave, Gabru is puzzled by how circumstances have brought together such an intriguing group. On the 61st day, Gabriel goes hunting with Gab Ketchai, and they spot 12 armed human soldiers. They trail them, and Gabriel uses his ability to listen in on their conversation. He discovers that the humans are planning to abduct the daughter of the Elvis chief, and one of the elves has betrayed their whereabouts. When the chief's daughter returns from a festival, the humans launch their attack, overpowering her guards and seizing her. Unable to stand by, Gabru intervenes, rescuing the girl and capturing the humans. By the 62nd day, he learns that the human army will mobilize in 20 days. After consuming all 12 humans, Gabru gains numerous abilities. When the elf girl wakes up, she's frightened by Gabru, especially noticing his wings, which are uncommon for elves. Despite his attempts to reassure her, she remains fearful, imagining the worst. Eventually, she calms down after drinking calming tea, though she becomes upset upon learning about her guards. Blaming Gabru for not intervening, he explains that the human-elf conflict isn't his concern and reveals the presence of a traitor among the elves. Despite his explanation, she cries inconsolably, prompting Gabru to advise her to rest before they return her home. Later that night, Gabru reminds the older man to keep his hands to himself. On the 63rd day, they escort the elf back to her village. She explains that wings are a feature unique to high elves, usually concealed within their body. However, due to her lack of experience, they occasionally emerge unintentionally. Upon reaching the elf village, Gabru senses 25 archers aiming mithril arrowheads at him. Fortunately, the chief's daughter intervenes, revealing that Gabru saved her life. Grateful, the chief expresses his thanks, although Gabru clarifies that he acted with the expectation of a reward. He sees this as an opportunity to understand the chief's values better. Gabru's reward is a family heirloom called a fail knot, a magical item. Despite the daughter's surprise, the chief considers it a small price for her safety. Pleased with the exchange, Gabru offers to provide intelligence on the human army's movements in return. With this gesture, the two groups establish friendly relations, and the elves equip the goblins with mithril gear. The chief inquires about their missing elite fighters, but Gabru feigns ignorance. As a token of appreciation, the chief gifts Gabru some fine liquor, prompting Gabru to pledge his assistance whenever needed. That night, Gabru savors the exquisite taste of the alcohol. On day 64, Godbur was astonished to discover that Godmi had evolved into a damper variant. Additionally, they gained 8 new hobgoblins. Godmi acquired new abilities, including the power to create and control large amounts of ice bestowed upon her by the god of ice. Her Evil Eyes ability now has the capability to charm enemies, causing them to fight amongst themselves. Gabai seemed to recognize her appearance, though he couldn't recall why. Gabai also underwent evolution and is now a half-Earth Lord, granting her the power to manipulate the ground and strengthen her body, along with the ability to use lightning magic to locate gems. Habsato evolved into a half-Bloody Lord, granting her the ability to control blood and shape it into weapons. Additionally, all the evolved goblins acquired tattoos in various locations, which they believe enhance their ability, prompting Gabru's curiosity to learn more about them. Due to their evolutions, Gabji decided to give them new names. They consulted a chart ranking races based on power, with ogres ranking 5th behind dampers and lords. Auguru anticipated that the elves would seek their aid in the upcoming battle against humans and distributed communication earrings to new allies, despite initial reluctance from the captive elf girls due to the taboo of decorating their ears. Auguru eventually persuaded them to wear the earrings and incorporated the new comrades into training sessions. He utilized his summon lower undead ability to summon skeletons for practical sparring, providing them with armor to enhance their quality. Although the elves struggled and lost most matches, Auguru was pleased with the progress and the growing trust within the group. On day 65, Auguru discovered that by using less mana, he could summon regular skeletons, zombie, and other undead creatures. Although he briefly wondered what they might taste like, he realized he couldn't consume them. However, they proved useful for practice and gaining experience. Unfortunately, they would be purified by daylight within seconds, limiting their use during the day. Auguru's group now boasted over 100 members. Recognizing the kobolds' disadvantaged position, he knew they would need to work harder than others. After a skirmish, Auguru expressed concern that Gafu might be consuming too much rotten meat, but she insisted it was her preferred diet. On day 66, Auguru instructed Earthy to seal the cave exit where the skeletons emerged. Additionally, he tasked the kobolds with hunting to acquire more wolf familiars. Surprisingly, they exceeded expectations, capturing 20 wolves. On their journey back, they encountered a formidable boar, which Earthy swiftly defeated. Later, the Forge Girl unveiled an upgraded axe that Auguru had damaged during a battle with a red bear. It had been enhanced with a blend of spirit stone, iron, and mithril alloy. Impressed, Auguru learned that the Smith Girl had ascended to become an elemental smith. On day 67, Auguru Kichai confesses to Auguru that he has feelings for Earthy. Despite being surprised, Auguru advises him and offers assistance, as Auguru Kichai is new to such matters. Auguru devises a plan for his friend, hoping for positive results by morning. That night, Auguru Kichai expresses his feelings to Earthy, and she appears receptive. The following morning, Auguru Kichai feels buoyant and stronger than ever during a sparring match with Auguru. Remarkably, he manages to land more attacks than usual, much to Auguru's satisfaction. It turns out that Earthy had discussed the matter with Dami the previous day, and together they orchestrated a favorable outcome. Auguru and Dami arranged the setting to facilitate Auguru Kichai's confession. Auguru found his friend to be unusually vigorous, and had to substitute himself with a black skeleton during their training bout. After their training session, Auguru's group went hunting and encountered numerous insect monsters previously unseen by Auguru. As a result, he gained additional ability, the most notable being one called Exoskeleton. Auguru was surprised to discover that using the exoskeleton ability made him resemble a superhero who can transform. This new exoskeleton is incredibly strong, with the ability to repair itself and absorb impacts. While Auguru finds it a bit flashy for his taste, Dami thinks it's cool. When Auguru tries to change back into his regular clothes, he finds himself in his birthday suit instead. It turns out that his normal clothes were used to create the exoskeleton. He's disappointed because he really liked his outfit, especially since it was made from the red bear's pelt. Additionally, Auguru realizes that this exoskeleton ability allows him to have 5 different forms. Since one form was already used with the red bear, he decides to register 4 others. He decides he wants forms for air and sea battles, so he registers one form from the insect, allowing him to sprout wings and fly. However, controlling it proves to be quite challenging, so he knows he needs practice. On day 69, during heavy rain, the redhead suggests sparring with Auguru. She has been making steady progress, and has been seeking more training lately. Auguru reflects on how she used to seem like a puppy but now resembles a grown Doberman. Meanwhile, the Smith Girl has been meeting regularly with the elves to brainstorm ideas for new weapons. She is currently working on developing a repeating crossbow, and tests have been successful. Auguru has asked her to start manufacturing them. He also provided her with more materials to make a new weapon for him. The chef sisters have been appointed as head chefs and have been tasked with recreating dishes from Auguru's past life, such as potato chips. After that, Oguru had a meeting with the alchemist about manufacturing magical items. She reveals an item she created from the bones of the black skeleton, a bone nail that can freeze whoever it strikes in place. The other girls catch Oguru hugging the alchemist, but he doesn't explain what happens next. On day 70, a group of elves arrives representing the chief elf. As they pass by their former comrades, Oguru's earrings cast a disguise effect, making them appear as dark elves. The elf messenger reveals that the humans are advancing, and the elves alone can't handle them, seeking Oguru's aid. The chief elf is willing to pay any price to completely eliminate the enemy. However, the contract will be void if Oguru retreats. Accepting the job, Oguru stipulates that they'll do it on his terms. He instructs the messenger to give the elf chief a bracelet for communication. Recognizing the value of information, Oguru utilizes his blood minis spread throughout the woods. Gathering everyone, he announces the transition to a mercenary company. They've become a professional fighting force, and everyone is on board. Deciding on the name Parabellum Mercenary Company, Oguru urges everyone to prepare for battle. It's time for their first mission, and they all chant Parabellum in unison. On the 71st day, Oguru's Parabellum Company embarks on their inaugural mission. The company consists of 36 members, but with Spellsay's sorcery, their familiars can also join them, bringing the total number to 73. They set out early in the morning, guided by intel provided by one of Oguru's informants. Encountering a barrier surrounding the human army base, Oguru utilizes an attribute on his silver arm to dismantle it. With the barrier down, Earthy employs her earth manipulation abilities to block off any potential escape routes for the human. Damie and Spelsay then lead a coordinated magical assault, while Oguru summons a legion of skeletons and adds spears to the mix. Despite their efforts, Oguru is surprised to find that the humans are not easily defeated. A female knight leads their defense, prompting Oguru to introduce himself with a resounding roar. Recognizing that the Black Ogre controls the undead, the knight rallies her forces to strike him down together. The human mage initiates the attack, impressing Oguru as the knight enhances her speed. He acknowledges her astute assessment of the situation, admiring the mana she envelops herself in. Even her tactic to aim for his heart earns his praise. However, despite her efforts, Oguru easily repels her. Expressing his admiration for her resilience, Oguru declares that they will all be spared and taken as prisoners. The knight adamantly refuses, insisting that Oguru must prove his strength if he desires her surrender. She challenges him, stating that if she is defeated, he may do as he pleases. Oguru instructs his group to spare the Lady Knight, the Sorcerer, the Priestess, and the Flaming Swordswoman, intending to capture them alive. However, he orders the elimination and consumption of the rest of the enemies. What follows is described by Oguru as a one-sided massacre. Damie's enchanted eyes cause chaos among the human soldiers, while Oguri Kichai overwhelms others. Blood Sato utilizes her ability to weaponize blood, supported by Ruthie's follow-up ability. Together, they emerge victorious without suffering any losses. Despite the Lady Knight managing to reach Oguru once, her attacks hardly faze him, though her determination impresses him. As the human mage prepares a potent attack, Spelsay recognizes it as a level 5 spell and fears for Oguru's safety. The mage, sacrificing herself, launches the attack, apologizing for its inevitability. However, Oguru declares victory, refusing to let the Lady Knight perish. To everyone's amazement, Oguru skillfully conjures a magical shield, combining 3rd level demise magic, a vacuum shield from his silver arm, and other abilities. Oguru successfully counters the dragon's spell attack, securing a decisive victory for his group. He emphasizes the significance of capturing powerful fighters as prisoners. Following their triumph, Oguru indulges in a feast, acquiring numerous new abilities in the process. The elves celebrate their victory. Subsequently, Oguru visits the prisoners, finding them in poor condition. On day 72, he explains that with the earrings in place, the humans couldn't deceive them, allowing them to gather valuable information. The elder elf, offering alcohol as payment, receives this information eagerly. Using an item provided by Oguru, they transmit the gathered intelligence, which includes details about hidden ambush routes planned by the humans. Oguru's group strategically lays traps along these routes, preparing for the impending attack. The human forces, comprising 500 fully armored knights and 100 wizards, plan to overwhelm the elves from multiple directions. Recognizing the challenge of facing them head-on, Oguru and his group view it as mere target practice. They initiate the attack, strategically cutting off escape routes and employing tactics like dropping boulders to reduce the enemy's numbers. Through a combination of pit traps and arrow assaults, they swiftly diminish the enemy's forces from 500 knights to fewer than 100, demonstrating their tactical superiority. Augeru is impressed when the knight commander orders his troops to construct a makeshift wall, leading to a stalemate in the battle. In response, Augeru sends Augur Kichai to engage the commander in combat. Despite the humans' resistance, Augeru ensures that his warriors overwhelm the knights, leaving no room for escape. However, Augeru is uncertain whether Augur Kichai can control himself during the fight. As Augur Kichai confronts the commander, his ferocity becomes evident, surprising even the commander. Augeru acknowledges the commander's resilience, but ultimately, Augur Kichai emerges victorious. Following their customary feast, Augeru gains new ability, while Augur Kichai remarks on the commander's resemblance to Augeru, a comparison Augeru dismisses. Suddenly, Dami expresses her desire to bear Augeru's child, surprising everyone. On day 74, the captured knights find their situation humiliating, but their commander reassures them, highlighting the comforts of food and shelter. The knights, considering themselves nobles, find the ordeal disgraceful, particularly due to their commoner-born commander's lack of understanding. Subsequently, Augeru learns from the commander the reason behind the human attack on the elves, a princess's fatal illness, prompting her betrothed king to seek a cure. Upon discovering the elves' sacred medicine, crafted with the forest demigod's blessing, the humans' greed sparks the conflict. Later, during a mining session, Earthy and the others are startled by an unexpected event. Amid speculation of an attack, they discover the creation of a hot spring, much to everyone's surprise. Excitedly, Augeru informs everyone about the benefits of the newly discovered hot spring. It enhances their healing ability, alleviates any status ailments, and contributes to healthier skin. Delighted by these advantages, everyone indulges in the rejuvenating bath, with Augeru acknowledging Earthy for uncovering it. On day 75, Augeru devises a new training regimen, utilizing the human prisoners. The plan involves honing leadership skills by orchestrating simulated battles with real soldiers. Participants give commands to their troops, appropriately attired for battle, aiming to defeat the opposing group's leader. Augeru assumes the role of a neutral judge, observing from the sidelines. During the exercises, Spelsay and Dami demonstrate strong leadership, effectively directing their respective units. However, Augur Kichai and Blood Sato struggle to secure victory. Observing this, the human spectators are perplexed by the goblin's military drills. Expressing his frustration, the commander expresses his desire for a direct confrontation with Augeru instead of engaging in mock battles. Impressed by the commander's courage and determination, Augeru gains respect for him, referring to him as the Steel Knight. To level the playing field, Augeru infuses the commander with mana, signaling his willingness to engage in combat. Releasing a portion of his power, Augeru engages in battle, swiftly overpowering the commander, who realizes he never stood a chance against Augeru's might. Augeru heals the Steel Knight, inspiring Orj Kichai to also challenge him to a fight. Observing their battle, Augeru senses that Orj Kichai is motivated by the Steel Knight's resolve. Later, the Steel Knight explains that he hails from a land abundant with demi-humans, facilitating his communication with them. Impressed by the diverse races gathered by Augeru, the Steel Knight wonders if Augeru's presence is divinely ordained. He relinquishes his knighthood, pledging his allegiance to Augeru. Accepting the offer, Augeru frees him from captivity and entrusts him with tasks suited to his talents. Augeru mentors the Redhead, tasking him with teaching unique human combat skills. Subsequently, the Elf Elder agrees to care for the wounded humans. Inquiring about the sought-after secret medicine, Augeru learns that it's the same medicine the Elder previously entrusted to him. This medicine is highly revered for its unparalleled healing property, capable of curing various ailments. Augeru is astounded by the Elder's generosity, who explains that their laws permit sharing it with Augeru, the savior of his daughter. Upon consuming the medicine, Augeru experiences an unusual sensation and gains numerous extraordinary healing abilities. To demonstrate, Augeru offers a drop of his blood to an injured human, who is astonished to find his injuries healed and his back pain alleviated. Similarly surprised, Augeru contemplates the extent of his newfound ability, realizing he has entered uncharted territory. Healing someone with just a drop of blood prompts him to speculate on the magnitude of his powers and their potential implications. The human army's camp was peaceful. Guards strolled while some savored coffee. Suddenly, a spear from beyond the camp strikes a knight, puncturing his torso and shattering his coffee cup. Shock and confusion grip the others as more spears emerge, claiming more lives. This signals an attack as ogres and hobgoblins charge in. 20 minutes later, Gobru stands amidst a heap of corpses, disintegrating them with a slimy substance. The next day, Gobru walks through the elven camp, accompanied by humans, raising suspicions. In a nearby treehouse, a red-haired warrior and a lady knight question Gabru's presence. Gabru reassures them of the kindness of the elven leader, who arrives shortly with food and drinks. Over dinner, they ponder their next move. Despite the human army's predicament, the elven leader proposes deploying their best unit for the next attack, aiming to swiftly end the conflict. Gabru agrees to the plan and sets off back to their own village. Along the journey, the lady knight approaches Gabru with a request. Though devoted to him, she also feels duty-bound as a human noble. Therefore, she implores Gabru to send the elf's medicine to the kingdom, hoping to cure their princess's debilitating illness. Gabru realizes this could put the kingdom in their debt if he agrees. However, there's a religious complication. Humans worship the 5 great grand gods, while Gabru has received blessings from Demise and Origin God. Delivering the medicine might spark conflict. Despite this, Gabru promises the Lady Knight he will consider her request. The next day, day 83, the human guards remain vigilant around their camp, numbering around 2,000. In contrast, Gabru's forces, combined with the elves, total only about 650 people. Additionally, Gabru overhears further intelligence. Using his blood clones, he discovers that a group called Rugaldorden has joined the army. Through his human soldiers, Gabru learns that the 8 braves of Rugaldorden are the strongest warriors, blessed by God. Though formidable individually, they also bolster their allies' strength. Nonetheless, Gabru remains unfazed, already contemplating the taste of these renowned heroes. In the present moment, Gabru utilizes his abilities to summon skeleton soldiers. Donbai questions the wisdom of this action as dawn approaches, but Gabru assures her that he has altered the skeletons to adapt to the sunlight. He devises a strategy to send his skeletons to the center while instructing Gabukichi to deal with any survivors. From the shadows of the forest, Gabru's skeletons charge toward the human guards, initiating a fierce battle between the two forces. Swords clash as humans fend off the relentless onslaught of skeletons. As dawn breaks, sunlight filters through the tree, illuminating the battlefield and causing the skeletons to fade away. The humans rejoice at their apparent victory, but the fight is far from over. Gabru had concealed his clones in a slime form within the skeletons, protecting them from the sun's rays. The knights struggle as they are gradually overwhelmed, and Gabru himself enters the fray, repelling attackers with his magic. His plan to disrupt the enemy's chain of command proves successful. Meanwhile, in a nearby section of the forest, a boy with green hair grumbles about being dragged into the war. His 2 guardian knights apologize but stress the importance of his hero powers in securing victory. As they journey, they stumble upon Gabru's battle with the knights, capturing the green-haired boy's interest as he witnesses Gabru's magical prowess. Meanwhile, the knights are bewildered by the astonishing sight unfolding before them. They watch as blood and water are absorbed into Gabru's hand, culminating in a sudden explosion that unleashes a deadly whirlpool, claiming the lives of all the soldiers. After the chaos subsides, Gabru approaches a nearby deceased mount and begins to feast. His meal is interrupted by the arrival of a green-haired boy, who boldly asks if they can spar next. Recognizing the boy's appearance, Gabru identifies him as Filippo, known as the Bone Bug Brave. While Filippo is pleased to be recognized, he dislikes the nickname given to him by Gabru. His eyes undergo a transformation, revealing compound eyes as evidence of a blessing from the enchantress god. Curious, Filippo questions Gabru about his role in annihilating the armies sent by the human kingdom. Expressing frustration, he stomps the ground, lamenting that Gabru's actions disrupt even his holiday plans. Despite his childish demeanor, Gabru senses the immense power emanating from Filippo, remaining wary. Filippo suggests that Gabru must also be blessed by a god and probes him about the deity's identity. When Gabru remains silent, Filippo produces vials containing bugs known as Undero, created through divine blessing and necromancy. Releasing the bugs, Filippo demonstrates their ability to reanimate corpses, noting that these revived beings are immune to the sun's effect, distinguishing them from typical zombies. Before the battle commences, Filippo engages Gabru in a discussion about the distinction between a brave and a hero. He explains that while a hero possesses remarkable individual strength, they can only bolster a maximum of 10 allies. In contrast, a brave may not be as powerful individually, but they can enhance up to 100 allies. Demonstrating his point, Filippo raises his hand, emitting a violet aura. Suddenly, the bugs under Filippo's control explode, transforming into various human-sized insects. Swarming around Gabru, the enemies launch their assault. Gabru effortlessly dispatches the bugs, much to Filippo's amusement, who marvels at Gabru's skill in annihilating his creations. Recognizing Gabru as a formidable opponent, Filippo shifts his approach, taking control of his bugs directly to maximize their effectiveness against Gabru. He begins by ensnaring Gabru's arms with webs and orchestrating a multi-directional attack from the other bugs. Despite the onslaught, Gobru skillfully defeats them all, leaving Filippo astonished by his prowess. Nevertheless, Filippo remains confident in his eventual victory. He gestures towards the ground, unleashing a mysterious spell that triggers seismic tremors, signaling a new phase in the battle. However, Gobru, who hasn't given up yet, attempts to attack the bug boy from behind. However, the bug boy swiftly dodges his attack, utilizing his compound eyes, akin to houseflies, which grant him a 360-degree view of his surroundings. Undeterred, Gobru persists in his relentless assault on the bug boy, who remains fixated on the fact that this persistent ogre survived the centipede's poison. He demands an explanation from Gobru, but Gobru refuses, unwilling to divulge his secrets to his adversary. With the centipede out of the picture, the bug boy decides to unleash another one of his pets, producing a vial containing a caterpillar he claims to be as dangerous as his previous pet. Before deploying his secret weapon, however, the bug boy pauses the fight, expressing his curiosity about Gobru, intrigued by the challenge he presents. Nevertheless, Gobru is unwilling to reveal himself to outsiders at this stage, rejecting the bug boy's inquiry once more, much to the bug boy's disappointment. Nonetheless, the bug boy introduces himself as Filippo Bird Lacara, boasting of being the 7th strongest fighter in the country. Unperturbed by the bug boy's status, Gobru silences him with a lightning spell, shattering his secret vial. He continues his barrage of lightning spells, closing the distance between them enough to land a blow on the bug boy's forehead. Suddenly, numerous tentacular pincers emerge from the bug boy's body, halting Gobru's assault. Revealing these pincers as his second secret technique, the bug boy undergoes a monstrous transformation himself. This excites Gobru, as he envisions the immense strength he could gain by consuming the bug boy, Filippo. With his curiosity piqued to its peak, he unleashes more of his destructive powers. Filippo is taken aback by Gobru's continued strength, even without undergoing the supposed epic awakening. Unfamiliar with the concept of epic awakening, Gobru seeks to learn more. However, before he can question Filippo further, he must bring their fight to an end. Transforming his exoskeleton to match Filippo's, Gobru launches a powerful attack, swiftly incapacitating him with a single blow. Meanwhile, Gobukichi decimates the opposing army, preparing to reunite with Gobru's team. Realizing his inability to defeat the enigmatic ogre, Filippo resorts to using his bug armor as a diversion, fleeing the battlefield with remarkable speed. As the battle draws to a close, Gobru dispatches his clones to deliver a message to the human commander. He no longer wishes to prolong the war. Additionally, he offers the commander the rare healing medicine initially sought to aid their princess. Accepting Gobru's terms, the commander orders his army to return to their kingdom. In the aftermath of the conflict, Gobru's team tends to the wounded and grants safe passage to the remaining human soldiers as the war concludes. After attending to all other matters, Gobru holds a solemn funeral to honor the 30 fallen comrades, vowing to grow stronger to prevent further loss of life among his allies. On day 84, we discover that the recent battle has greatly benefited Ogaru's group, leading to many new evolutions. Habji, who did a lot of healing, has evolved into a half-Saint Lord. He now possesses a unique ability called Shell Field, which is durable enough to withstand 20 strikes from Ogaru. Habfu, due to her love for spoiled food and constant consumption of zombies, has become a ghoul. She talks excitedly about the guys, making Ogaru nervous about her thoughts. Ogaru is also startled by Habumi's unsettling non-face eyes and asks her to keep them closed. Habumi, who is never good at direct combat, has evolved into a Dodonki, a race skilled in combat support through illusory magic. Ogaru believes she will eventually surpass him in intelligence gathering. Even the weaker hobgoblins have leveled up to become ogres. The group is determined to get stronger in honor of their fallen comrades, surprising Ogaru, as goblins are usually egotistical. This newfound motivation to honor their lost friends impresses him. The leader of the kobolds has also evolved, becoming a warrior kobold. He boasts about his fierce new appearance, but Ogaru thinks he looks more like a mafia boss dabbling in cosplay. The kobold leader, who now has the true name Tsuji, shares his name with Ogaru as a sign of loyalty. Old Man Gobji explains that true names are special and powerful, allowing enemies to cast curses if they learn them. Sharing one's true name is dangerous and akin to committing suicide. In response to Tsuji's loyalty, Ogaru decides to call him Akira from now on. Ogaru contemplates what to do with the prisoners and eventually decides to set them free. He offers those without a place to go the chance to join his group on a provisional basis. Some prisoners are offended by this, feeling it demeans them to be ranked below goblins. This sparks an argument, as the goblins take offense. Oguru acknowledges that the 3 prisoners are indeed stronger than goblins, but he trusts his goblins, who have been training there since birth, more than these newcomers. He tells the 3 prisoners they can leave if they want, but they prefer to prove themselves. They challenge the leader of the mercenary group, believing Dami to be the leader. They are amused to learn that an ogre like Oguru is actually in charge. Oguru must calm Dami down and agrees to their challenge. Confident, he decides to fight 2 of them simultaneously, prompting them to call him cocky. As the fight is about to begin, everyone is amazed by the prisoners' impressive weapons. Gobji arrives to watch and explains that they are using orb weapons, which enhance their user's power and can repair themselves when damaged. He suggests that some members of Oguru's group might be able to use them as well. Oguru swiftly defeats the attackers and takes on any other challengers. Suddenly, everyone is shocked as Oguru is knocked back by an ape-like guy who declares himself the new leader. However, Oguru quickly sends him flying, explaining that he let the guy land a hit because he managed to sneak up on him. The only one left is a half-damned guy who's nowhere to be found. Oguru eventually spots him asking Dami to be his wife. Furious, Oguru beats him up, thinking the guy deserved an extra beating for hitting on Dami right in front of him. Some other powerful-looking races are among the provisional members, but they're just grateful to be freed from slavery. Oguru gives the damper guy some blood to heal him, which makes the guy pledge his loyalty, creating an awkward situation. By the end of all this, Oguru's group gains 50 more provisional members. These new members spar against some of Oguru's undead, with Kikuchi overseeing their training. Additionally, Oguru has found new smiths to collaborate with the smith girl. The little guys note that she still has much to learn but see potential in her. Although she doesn't like them much, dwarven smithing is top tier in this world. They might even be able to make mithril equipment, so Oguru asks the smith girl to try to make it work. Oguru recently learned a new ability called synthesis. He experimented with an orb, and it worked perfectly. However, when he used Chaos of the Dead to create a monster, it went wild and wouldn't listen to him, so he had to destroy it. Then, he used synthesis to combine new abilities. He merged weakness to sunlight and weakness to light damage into weakness to sunlight damage, which he later regretted. On day 85, they began renovating their base, prioritizing the hot springs to offer it as a service to their elven allies. On day 86, Oguru used the provisional members to test out synthesized abilities, thinking there would be fewer issues in case of accidents, but he worried he might have gone too far. On day 87, the dwarves presented Oguru with their finest work, a special warhammer. However, Oguru couldn't understand what made it special. Since his birth, so much has changed that he now needs to suppress his presence when walking through the woods to avoid scaring away creatures. Oguru met with the dryad again to pick something up, but the other girls warned him he'd pay dearly if he was up to no good. On day 88, Oguru announced they would be planting crops. He had picked up magical seeds for fruits and vegetables from the dryad. These seeds grow faster, taste better, and are more nutritious than regular ones. On day 89, some provisional recruits and prisoners of noble birth returned home, but not before Dami brainwashed them. This means they now have spies within the kingdom and the empire. The human army began to withdraw, and the elf elder thanked Oguru for his help by throwing a banquet to celebrate. Oguru wondered if it was a good idea for him to be invited, but the elder explained that despite their rules to shun outsiders, Oguru and his people were friends. The elder shared that his younger brother left the forest long ago, seeking a link to the outside world. and Oguru had helped ensure the forest remained safe for his brother's return. The elves became emotional, and the celebration continued. Upon returning to their base, Earthy had dug up the last of the spirit stones. As a sign of gratitude to Velvet and the carbuncle, Oguru decided to eat the last batch of spirit stones, granting him a bunch of new abilities. Afterwards, Oguru focused on heavy-duty crafting. He fused the bones of black skeletons and added some replicant material as an anti-sunlight measure, creating a skeleton centipede. Oguru planned to use it as a vehicle to take the human girls to a human town. The human girls feared they were being kicked out, but Oguru reminded them that he had promised to return them home when they first met. Even if they decided to stay, Oguru wanted them to visit their home before making that decision. On day 91, the improved hot spring was completed. During training, the knight noticed the redhead seemed distracted. She admitted she was worried about going back to a human town. The knight wanted to stay out of it, but reassured her that Oguru didn't seem eager to get rid of her. On day 92, the girls gathered items to sell in town. Oguru realized how valuable their knowledge was to him. On day 93, a party was held to help everyone get to know each other. The trio from before were obnoxious drunks, boasting that they would do whatever they wanted when Oguru went into town. However, they informed Oguru that both the kingdom and the empire despised demi-humans, so they would need someone from a noble family to help them get in. The obnoxious redhead offered to help, but Oguru declined. On day 94, Oguru divided everyone into 4 groups. Their goals were to gather information about the outside world, handle any internal issues, and try to level up. Most importantly, Oguru emphasized that no one should die. On day 95, everyone prepared to depart. Each person showed their unique personality, and Oguru reminded Augur Kichai not to wander off alone. With that, the groups set out. Oguru reflected on how much he had learned living in the forest, but he knew he needed to keep moving forward. There was still powerful prey out in the world, just waiting for him. On day 102, Oguru and the girls arrive at Garrison City. The locals panic at the sight of an ogre leading humans, but the twins quickly explain the situation. Oguru then tells the girls to use their time in the city to decide whether they want to stay or go with him. The redhead guides Oguru to the guild while the other girls sell some goods. Oguru encounters some trouble but swiftly makes it faint. After registering as an adventurer, the group goes shopping. The girls look for clothes, but Oguru decides to gather information. He disguises himself as a human, taking on the form he had in his past life. As he walks through the city, he overhears people talking about him as the tattooed ogre. Realizing he has a bad reputation, Oguru decides they can't continue their mercenary activities for now. Moments later, some thugs surround Oguru. He easily takes them out and devours them, gaining some new abilities in the process. Oguru notices that the thugs he defeated all wear matching rings, hinting they belong to a larger organization. Nearby, he overhears a man negotiating a ransom to free a girl. The thugs demand more money, and Oguru sees they are wearing the same rings. When he learns the girl is a princess, he realizes how serious the situation is. The thugs nearly overpower the man, but Oguru steps in, knocking them out and attaching his blood clones to them to track them later. The man is angry that Oguru didn't kill the criminals, but Oguru reminds him he just saved his life. He leaves his mercenary card with the man for future help, then reveals his ogre form, instructing the man to keep it secret. That night, the man meets Oguru and explains that the princess's presence in the city was supposed to be a secret. She had snuck away from her inn and was kidnapped by an organization. Oguru surprises the man by revealing he already knows their hideout. Together, they infiltrate it, with Oguru taking out all the thieves and rescuing the princess. As they burn the hideout, Oguru shares evidence suggesting the kidnapping was planned by the princess herself. The man wants to report this to the kingdom, but Genki suddenly appears, casting a spell to prevent him from revealing the truth. Instead, the man will create a story with the princess and live peacefully. On day 103, Oguru learns that newborn goblins and hobgoblins have been delivered. Happy about the new generation, he still needs to hear from the girls before leaving the city. When he talks to them, they say he didn't need to ask, they've already packed to go with him. The chef has more recipes to try. The nerd girl wants to perfect an alcoholic drink for him, and the redhead and Smith have their own reasons for returning. Aguru thanks them all. Later, Princess Rubilia introduces herself, and the man explains that she insisted on finding Aguru to thank him for saving her. Rubilia has heard that Aguru leads a mercenary group and wants to hire them to escort her back to the royal capital. Aguru is taken aback by her commanding tone and wonders if she has some kind of charm ability. Aguru refuses, pointing out that she already has plenty of guards. Rubilia dismisses them as boring, which frustrates Aguru. He tries to scold her for sneaking away from her inn, but it only makes her like him more. The man mentions that they will be rewarded with a gold plate for escorting the princess. The girls urge Aguru to accept the job since a gold plate is worth 1,000,000 gold, far more than a typical job. Though their focus on money annoys Aguru, he is curious about the royal capital, so he agrees to take the job. Afterwards, Aguru admits he's also excited about the prize money. The princess reveals she ran away from her guards again, so Aguru scolds the guy, who explains that the princess is stubborn. This is problematic because if the guards find Rubilia with Aguru, they'll probably mistake him for a kidnapper. Despite this, they continue their journey, and Aguru answers all of Rubilia's questions. He explains that they're riding on a skeleton centipede. He also tells her about the nearby animals called bullfors, which have good quality meat and valuable horns. The group takes down some bullfors and has a feast. They also use a bullfor to disguise their conspicuous skeleton centipede as a carriage. The redhead snacks on a rabbit, gaining some abilities. Aguru explains that her power only activates this way. The guy grows concerned as the princess becomes careless, requiring Aguru to save her multiple times, including when she sneaks up on chefs holding knives. He scolds her for her recklessness. On day 104, they find a nest of turtle snakes. They work together to capture the animals and prepare another meal. The princess apologizes to the chefs for her behavior and offers to help make the meal. Everyone enjoys the grilled turtle snakes. As their journey continues, Aguru notices Rubilia's insatiable curiosity. Even when she knows something is dangerous, she can't help but investigate. Aguru takes an interest in the knight and invites them to join their morning training. The princess wants to join too, but is told that the training is not a game. Despite this, Aguru allows her to participate. Aguru trains the knight until he faints, impressed by the princess's dedication as she practices her sword swings seriously. That night, they plan their route for the next day. The shortest path is along a cliff, but it's also the most dangerous because of the fillets eagles that reside there. These eagles are the strongest creatures around the mountain path. They are extremely fast and have poisonous claws. Even worse, the boss-class Jade Eagle has a blessing power and will hunt them down if they encounter one. Everyone is shocked when Aguru announces they will hunt the Jade Eagle. The hunt begins the next day, and the captured eagles become their breakfast. Aguru realizes things are going to get really bad, so he tells the others to stay put. Everyone gets worried, but Aguru apologizes, explaining he decided long ago to eat as many first encountered enemies as he can. Later, the group's worry intensifies as Aguru battles the beast for over an hour. Dami reassures them that Aguru is fine, recalling how he once defeated a red bear after an all-night battle. The red guy points out that this eagle is far more dangerous, suggesting they should consider running if Aguru is defeated. Dami refuses to run, declaring she will stay with Aguru no matter what. Just then, things go quiet, and everyone fears Aguru has lost his life when they see his arm on the ground. Aguru is alive but in bad shape, leading the newest members to think defeating the eagle is impossible, and they need to run. The situation looks dire, but Aguru decides he has to get serious. Everyone is shocked when he eats his own arm, thanking the eagle for helping him train. He acknowledges its strength and puts on his armor, ready to fight with renewed determination. Aguru restrains the giant bird with his threads, preventing its escape. With one powerful attack, he brings the eagle crashing to the ground. He expects it to die instantly, but the blessed creature proves to have strong vitality. Then, Aguru discovers a stone buried beneath the jade eagle's heart. The girls explain it's extremely rare, and advise Aguru not to eat it. They want to use it to craft powerful weapons. The group feasts on cooked jade eagle, and Aguru gains more abilities. Using the bird for another exoskeleton slot, he acquires feathered wings. The princess questions why Aguru eats all the monsters he encounters. He's faced this question many times before, and his answer remains the same. He eats what he kills, and he kills to survive. If someone dies because of his actions, he consumes it as a form of restitution. In his previous life, this answer shocked many, but the princess falls silent, leaving Aguru to wonder about her thoughts as they continue their journey. On day 109, our group arrives at a village where all the villagers are scared of Aguru. In villages with only humans, Aguru has heard they dislike demi-humans. However, Rubilia shows her family crest to calm everyone down. The group is then welcomed and taken to the village's most popular spot, a large waterfall. After spending the day at a hot spring, the village holds a celebration. To thank the villagers for their hospitality, Oguru shares his alcohol with them. One villager gets too touchy, and Dami deals with him harshly. To make things more exciting, Oguru starts a drinking competition, offering 4 silver plates as the prize. Unfortunately for the villagers, ogres can't get drunk, so they all pass out trying to beat Oguru. Oguru snacks on some fish and gains some abilities. On day 110, they leave the village, and Oguru notices that the twins look a bit pale. They explain it's because they cooked for so many people during the festival. Oguru offers to do the cooking for the day so they can rest. On day 111, everyone is shocked and tells Oguru to stop the centipede. It turns out the twins are pregnant with Oguru's children. Oguru immediately contacts Gabji because he doesn't know what to do. The twins' stomachs grew big instantly, so Oguru wonders if it would be okay to send them back to the village. Unfortunately, Gabji explains they won't make it in time. Ogre children steal nutrition from their mother's belly and are born immediately. If the twins were ogres, it would be fine, but human bodies are too small. If they don't get enough nutrition, the mother's bellies might tear. There's no time to get back to the village, so Oguru decides to find a nearby place for them to give birth. The twins are in a lot of pain, but they tell Oguru not to worry and promise to give birth soon. Moments later, everyone becomes worried when they see the twins looking too thin. They are becoming very weak, and the alchemist's life potion doesn't work on them. They desperately need something with higher nutritional content to sustain them. Just then, Oguru comes up with an idea. He knows it will be difficult for the twins, but there aren't many options. Oguru tears off his own arm and tells them to eat his flesh. Everyone is shocked, but this is the only way to give them the energy they need. There's no time to cook it, so they have to eat it raw. The twins refuse to let Oguru go through the pain, but the others point out that he can just regenerate. The girls still refuse, so Oguru bites his own flesh and feeds it to them himself. He declares that they can hate him afterward if they want, but he refuses to let them and their children die. After feeding the twins, Oguru finds a suitable cave. There are some bears inside, but Oguru has the 3 lords eliminate them. Using his abilities, Oguru makes beds for the twins, who are now so large they look like they are about to pop. He uses his healing ability along with some anesthesia to ease their pain, but he isn't sure how long it will last. Eventually, one of the twins' bellies stops growing. Oguru is using one of his blood minutes to transmit the situation to Seiji. He tells Seiji that what he's about to do will be useful for their base, so he wants Seiji to watch closely. He puts one of the twins to sleep and uses his ability to create a scalpel. Oguru keeps reminding himself to keep healing and sedating the twins as he begins the procedure. After a while, the twins give birth to a baby boy and a baby girl. Thanks to Oguru's blood and ability, the entire procedure is a success, and the twins' wounds have already healed. Oguru is relieved that he didn't lose the twins and feels proud to be a father. The princess holds one of the babies and rudely comments that they look like monkeys, but adds that they are still cute. Just then, Gabji requests to see the baby, assuming they might be Oguru's mixed blood. This is confirmed as both babies have horns. Gabji explains that Oguru can remove the horns while they are still infants. According to Gabji, when a human woman gives birth to a demi-human's child, the child will belong to the father's race. However, in rare cases, about 1 in a million, a special race called mixed blood is born. These mixed blood individuals possess great power, but both human and demi-human societies see them as undesirable. As a result, the best life they can hope for is to live as feared monsters. Oguru appreciates all the knowledge Gabji has shared with him, but this time Oguru has made his own decision. If his children end up becoming monsters because everyone hates them, he will still shower them with love. Seiji assures Oguru that everyone in Parabellum feels the same way. Another strange thing about his children is that they have orbs on their bodies. Oguru assumes that this is because he has many orbs and dragon spheres inside his own body. They decide to name the daughter Arrow and the son Argento. The twins, whose names are Felicia and Alma, are doing well. Oguru thanks them for bearing his children and expresses his desire to live together with them as a family from now on. Felicia and Alma feel the same way. On day 112, Oguru wants to find a strong monster that he has never seen before, so he goes exploring alone. After a while, he encounters a beast he decides to call a white stag. Oguru can tell just by looking at it that this is a boss-class monster. He estimates that even if he goes all out, there's only a 30% chance he would win. Oguru hasn't felt the fear of death in a very long time, but this just makes him excited. He transforms, but is confused when the beast doesn't attack him. Instead, the monster sheds its antlers and runs off. Oguru considers eating the antlers to gain new ability, but his intuition tells him he should give them to his children instead. After some more exploring, Oguru encounters a joint force of humans and demi-humans engaged in a battle. He can tell they have a lot of experience. As he watches, it becomes clear that this is the strongest group Oguru has ever seen in this world. However, their target is a boss monster, and it's putting up a strong fight. The group has taken out several beasts, but the boss prepares to end the fight with its most powerful magic attack. At that moment, this immensely powerful beast gets blown to bits by Oguru using his new armed weapon. Oguru was a bit nervous to use that attack, but he wanted to save the group so he could fight them himself. The problem now is that he's not sure if he can fit the giant monster in his storage. Once he confirms it will fit, he turns his attention to the group. One human stands to protect the others, making Oguru think. He wonders if this guy would have been able to beat the boss if he hadn't destroyed it. Oguru isn't sure why, but something about the guy makes him confident that he would have won against the boss. Oguru commends the guy on his performance during the fight. Deciding not to eat the group, Oguru pretends he was sent by someone to defeat the boss monster. He asks if he can take the monster's corpse in exchange for healing their wounds. They agree, so Oguru takes the monster's body, and they part ways. The guy is amazed that a creature like Oguru exists. He can tell that Oguru hasn't reached epic level yet, but for some reason, he can't move at all. A girl nearby wonders if it's because of his injuries, but it's not. It's actually out of fear of Oguru. The guy has an ability called Voice of Death, which showed him the worst possible outcome. If they had tried to fight Oguru, they all would have lost their lives. After eating the boss and gaining more ability, Oguru eventually returns to the cave. His children can already walk and they welcome him home. Oguru calls them geniuses. He feeds them the stag's horn, and he can tell that their abilities have improved significantly. Oguru and the redhead try the horn as well, but Oguru is stunned when they gain 2 abilities with strange symbols. It only took a small fragment of the horn to achieve this, causing Oguru to fear that he made a significant mistake this time. It's clear that the white stag is not a creature he can fight right now. That night, Oguru's level once again exceeds the specified value, and all requirements are met, allowing another evolution. He can now evolve into an extinct species called an Apostle Lord. Oguru decides to go through with it, and he receives the true name, Yaten Doji. He is also supposed to gain some ability, but the conditions for some of them haven't been met yet. These abilities will only be granted once the conditions are met. Additionally, 8 of Oguru's subordinates are appointed as demon generals. The next morning, everyone is shocked to see Oguru's new evolution. On day 114, Oguru discovers that both the blacksmith and the alchemist are pregnant. He decides to find a place with water, so the princess reassures the women to hold on just a bit longer. Despite the gravity of the situation, Oguru feels confident since he knows what to do this time. A while later, Emery and Spinel give birth. The human female baby is named Nicola, and the high orc male baby is named Anuwaka. On day 115, the princess changes into a disguise since they are near the royal capital. Without the disguise, her presence would cause a huge uproar. Oguru instructs the new mothers to take a break and sends the other girls to gather information at the Adventurers Guild. At the guild, some adventurers notice Oguru's strong appearance and ask to spar with him. Finding the challenge too easy, Oguru offers to let them fight the nobles instead. The nobles are shocked, and Oguru sweetens the deal by offering the adventurers 5 silver plates as a prize for winning. The nobles and adventurers battle it out, and Oguru notices that Dami wants to participate, though she is only allowed to watch. The session ends when the adventurers can't take any more. Genki breaks down in tears upon seeing how strong they have become, but the others remind him that there's no reason to cry. Their entire goal was to get stronger, and this is just the beginning. Impressed by their progress, Oguru allows them to join Parabellum. Oguru then does some shopping and buys a rare magic item that allows someone to print any scenery they see. Though it sounds complicated, it's actually just like a camera from Oguru's old world. Naturally, he puts the camera to good use immediately, taking tons of pictures of his kids. That night, Oguru reflects on how they're only a couple of days away from reaching their destination. He wonders what kind of enemy awaits them there. He also realizes that he has been so busy that he hasn't had enough time to contact the other groups. Blood Saddle leads Group 3 and explains that Spellsay bought a ton of spell books. Oguru doesn't remember giving them much money, but Spellsay reveals that they have been capturing bandits and kidnappers, taking all their money so they don't have to worry about travel expenses. Dodomi leads the 5th group and is diligently gathering information. Oguru praises her for a job well done and reminds her to rest sometime. The 4th group doesn't have a leader, resulting in constant arguments. Oguru decides they need a leader, and Habern is shocked to hear that it's her. She tries to object, but Oguru's decision is final. Oguru prepares to contact the 2nd group, led by Augur Kichai, but he receives a shocking vision. Dami wonders what's wrong, and Aguru says that he saw his own death in this vision. On day 116, Aguru tells the princess that they will be taking a different route. The others, aware of his vision where he loses his life, explain that it must have been a foresight dream. Dami doesn't want to hear any talk of it, but Aguru insists on going to the place in his vision to see if it's real. It will take 2 days to reach this location, which might delay their arrival at the royal capital. Surprisingly, the princess allows the detour and declares that they will head to Maze City instead. On day 117, Aguru explains that they will reach Maze City in 1 more day. Everyone enjoys the presence of the children, but the princess points out that one isn't even walking yet. Aguru explains that this is because the child is human, and it usually takes around 1 year for them to begin walking. Up front, Dami stares at her necklace thoughtfully. Aguru can't believe Dami still has the necklace, so she reminds him that it's the one he gave her when they were still Goblin. Even though it was just 4 months ago, the necklace still evokes a lot of nostalgia for her. She then reflects on everything that has happened since then. They fought humans as mercenaries and are now bodyguards for a human princess. Additionally, Aguru is always evolving and gradually becoming more manly. Dami feels disappointed to still be just a dampier, but what bothers her most is that she still doesn't have a baby from the person she loves the most. Aguru assures her that he will stay by her side, saying that even if she doesn't have any of his children, his feelings for her won't change. On day 118, they arrive at Maze City. Agur Kichai's group should be in the dungeon they find, but they hear arguing coming from inside. Some adventurers run out and tell Aguru to flee as well. There is a terrible monster inside called Minotaurus, and not even a lord can defeat it. Aguru had been told before coming to the dungeon that several parties wanted to exterminate it, but none have returned. Just then, Agur Kichai and Earthy emerge from the dungeon. They are significantly larger now, and Agur Kichai remarks that Aguru has gotten smaller since the last time they saw each other. These 2 giants rescue the adventurers and explain the situation to Aguru. In the deepest part of the dungeon, a rare monster called Mind Mirror has appeared. This monster is said to copy the strongest opponent that the person facing it holds dearly in their heart. In Agur Kichai's case, this was Aguru, so Agur Kichai got beaten up. However, this encounter caused Agur Kichai to receive the blessings of the demigod of lightning, and he evolved. He then destroyed the mirror version of Aguru, which explains the vision Aguru had. Agur Kichai and Nerthi are now minotaurs. Aguru is relieved to see that everything is going well, and he decides to stay in Maze City for the night. Just then, Agur Kichai asks Aguru for a match. Aguru, expecting this, remarks that Agur Kichai hasn't changed at all. Moments later, a large crowd gathers to watch the fight. The princess can't understand why friends would fight each other, so Dami explains that ever since they were born into this world, they have always sought power, even beyond that of their own friends. It's been a month since their last match, and Aguru is impressed by how much stronger Agur Kichai has become. Not only has he gained strength, but his axe and shield have also been enhanced. Agur Kichai explains that he has faced many extremely powerful monsters in the dungeon, honing his strength and fighting techniques. He worked tirelessly with the purpose of becoming strong enough to defeat Aguru. Winning against Aguru would make them equals and allow them to walk together as true friends. Agur Kichai declares it's time to fight, and Aguru tells him to give it all he's got. The 2 warriors charge at each other, and immense power bursts out as they clash. Aguru notices that Agur Kichai's axe is extremely heavy, a weapon no one else could likely lift. Aguru is also surprised by Agur Kichai's speed, barely dodging his next attack. Everyone watches in amazement as Agur Kichai's blessings allow him to control fire and lightning simultaneously. Although Aguru has lightning resistance, he can't resist fire with his current ability. In terms of control, Agur Kichai surpasses him, which excites Aguru, seeing the results of Agur Kichai's determination. They charge at each other again, and Aguru advises Agur Kichai to always be mindful of his surroundings. He immediately regrets this, knowing his training habit made him give Agur Kichai a piece of advice. Aguru knows that Agur Kichai's current eye structure won't allow him to see behind him, so Aguru attacks from behind with water. Agur Kichai manages to fend it off, shocking Aguru when he creates an illusion using his shield. Realizing the seriousness of the fight, Aguru prepares to use an ability he never thought he would use against a friend. This ability amplifies all his skills, allowing him to overpower Agur Kichai and take control of the fight. He unleashes an attack called the Dance of 1,000 Spears, but Agur Kichai engulfs himself in flames, countering Aguru's move. Agur Kichai takes to the sky, but Aguru points out that he won't be able to dodge freely up there. Aguru is shocked, however, when Agur Kichai stands on his shield, wondering if that's even allowed. Just then, Agur Kichai unleashes an incredible amount of power, but Aguru calls him a fool and tells him he needs to consider his output. Augur Kichai keeps releasing power, and the spectators can only wonder what is happening as the arena is engulfed in flames. Suddenly, Augur Kichai stops, and Auguru explains that he lost to anger and lost control of his power. Augur Kichai halted because he realized he might hurt his nearby friends. Auguru is impressed by the fire, and lightning Augur Kichai released, but it was very reckless. Auguru is fine because he can heal quickly, but this isn't true for the spectators. Furious about Augur Kichai putting everyone in danger, Auguru demands that he cool his head for once. Auguru teaches him a lesson and unleashes an incredibly powerful punch. Auguru feels a sense of nostalgia as he remembers training Augur Kichai for the first time. The scene then shifts to Auguro and his companions arriving at the capital city of Oswell. Auguro recounts that after his encounter with Augur Kichai, their paths diverged, and his group proceeded to their ultimate destination, the royal capital of Oswell. Upon entering the city, Auguro is struck by its impressive infrastructure, noting the fully paved roads and the presence of indoor plumbing. He expresses his admiration, and Riberia explains that the boundless wisdom of the royal family has enabled the capital to flourish. She then leads them to her castle. Auguro and the others marvel at the beauty of the structure, wondering if this is where the royal family resides. Shay clarifies that the Umber Palace is specifically for Princess Riberia, and that several other palaces are scattered around the capital. The girls find the opulence excessive and reflect on how it contrasts sharply with their humble cave dwelling. Riberia thanks Auguro for safeguarding her during their journey, and promises to prepare a special reward as a token of her gratitude. She invites them to rest at her palace for the night, and they agree. Later, the scene shows them having a meal together. Afterward, they attempt to sleep, but the girls struggle with the unfamiliar comfort of the soft beds and the luxurious room. Despite their discomfort, they are relieved to see that the children are sleeping well. The next morning, Auguro wakes up feeling well rested. He meets with Princess Riberia, who grants him a note of endorsement. She calls it a princess bill, explaining that it will grant him free access to the capital. Auguro wonders if she is sure about giving this to him, considering he is just a random ogre she met recently, and he mentions that he might misuse it. Riberia responds that she has a good grasp of his nature from their journey together. She observes that whether in battle or business, he exerts only the minimal amount of effort necessary for optimal results. He also carefully weighs risk against reward to choose the appropriate course of action, and such a person would not be foolish enough to misuse something like this. Auguro is astonished to realize that the princess was evaluating him throughout their journey while appearing innocent. Riberia adds that she might need his services again in the future, so the quicker he can return to the capital, the better it would be for her. She encourages him to make good use of the endorsement. Auguro is amazed to discover he has befriended such a strategic thinker. The scene then transitions to Auguro and his group leaving the capital. Shay thanks them for everything and explains that the princess's guards forbade her from seeing them off, so she won't be coming to say goodbye. Auguro assures him that it's fine and advises him to keep up his training. As they depart, Auguro reveals that he has positioned his replicants all over the capital, sensing that they might need to return soon. They then head back to their village, and after 2 days, we see that their trip is progressing smoothly. Auguro notices that Dami is still worried about the conversation they had earlier, and remarks that Augur Kichai has become much stronger. Dami responds that she feels she hasn't changed at all. Auguro asks her about her current level, and she reveals it's 89. He reminds her of his promise never to abandon any of them as long as they keep striving to improve. He urges her not to look so sad and assures her that he will help train her, no matter how long it takes. Dami asks him to lend her his strength. They decide to make a stop to help Dami train, and Auguro uses his lesser giant summoning skill to conjure some giants. Determined, Dami declares that she is done looking back and will keep training even if it doesn't lead to her evolution. She will keep moving forward. She then engages in combat with the giants, continuing to fight them until evening. By the end of the day, Dami has defeated a total of 30 giants and still wants to continue. However, Auguro insists that she has done enough for today. Exhausted, Dami faints, and Auguro carries her back to their camp. Near the camp, his knees give out, and he mentions feeling suddenly drowsy. The alchemist approaches and explains that this is a sign of mana depletion. She notes that he has so much mana that he usually never experiences it, but she is relieved it didn't happen during a real fight. The others then inform Auguro that dinner is ready, and they all sit down to eat. The scene then cuts to everyone sleeping, revealing that Dami has met the conditions for evolution. She gains the title Glacier Empress, and becomes the consort of the Apostle Lord. Additionally, she unlocks the title Concubine of Apostle Lord, and the system searches for suitable candidate. The next day, Auguro wakes up to find that Dami has transformed into a vampire noble. She informs Auguro that her true name is Hekaterina, and that she is now officially his wife. This revelation makes her a little embarrassed, and she laughs. Agro hugs her and expresses his happiness at seeing her laugh again, which pleases Damie. A few days pass, and the group enters the forest where they were born. Agro remarks that the entire trip took about a month, but it feels like they were gone much longer. He admits that he kind of misses their dark and damp cave. Damie agrees, noting that it feels a bit cramped with their new additions. When they arrive at their cave, they are surprised to find it transformed into a huge palace. Earthy and Ogre Kitchai welcome them back, while Spell C and Blood Sato mention that they are the last ones to arrive. They explain that they made a few renovations to alleviate the cramped conditions. Agro remarks that the changes are far more than just a few renovations. Hybern responds, saying that since Agro is usually the one to surprise them, they decided it would be nice to change things up for once. Dodome adds that Ogre Kitchai and Earthy did most of the heavy lifting, though the two of them insist it was a team effort. They explain that the work isn't completely finished yet and offer to show Agro around. They first take him to see their new farm, where the Dryad proudly tells Agro that she has finished planting all the vegetable and fruit seeds. Agro learns that she has moved into the compound and has even ranked up. She tells him that he can call her Dorian now. Next, they show him their new ranch, where Agro is pleased to see the tamed monsters thriving. They continue to the residential block, which Agro notes is impressively large. He discovers that a species called catsiths have also joined them. These beings may not be skilled in combat, but they are very handy and have the added charm of being cute and fluffy. Suddenly, Seiji comes running in to inform everyone that the old goblin has been hospitalized. They all rush to see him. The old goblin tries to speak but is overcome by coughing. Agro introduces his children to the old goblin, who is delighted to meet them. He reminisces about holding Agro as a baby and marvels at how much he has grown. Agro takes this moment to share some important news before the old goblin passes away. He explains that he has evolved into an Apostle Lord and has renamed himself Apo-Ro. Earthy has become an Earth Lord variant, so her name remains the same. Damie has evolved into a noble vampire, now called Kanami, and Ogre Kitchai has evolved into a Minotaur, now known as Mino Kitchai. Everyone likes their new names, though the old goblin is amused at how simple they are, suggesting that Apo-Ro isn't the most creative with names. Despite this, the old goblin is amazed that the baby he once knew is now an Apostle Lord. Reflecting on his life, he thinks that he has seen some remarkable things in his short lifespan and that it was not a bad life. He then passes away, and Apo-Ro tells him to rest in peace. The scene shifts to the group burning the old goblin's corpse. Apo-Ro mentions that the old goblin was a bit over 20 years old at his death. He doesn't know the exact lifespan of goblins, but expresses his desire to spend whatever time he has left in this world with his people, living his life to the fullest. He proposes that they should send off the old goblin in their unique way. Everyone wonders what he has in mind. Apo-Ro announces that they will hold a Parabellum mercenary company fighting tournament. This news excites everyone, and even the kids declare their intention to participate in the tournament. Apo-Ro agrees with enthusiasm, stating that he plans to take lots of pictures of everyone. The scene shifts to Apo-Ro explaining the tournament rules to the group. He states that matches will end when a participant either surrenders or is unable to continue fighting. He warns that there will be severe punishments for anyone who kills their opponent, so they must refrain from lethal force. Depending on the outcomes, their positions within the company might change. Apo-Ro encourages everyone to give their best. The participants then engage in individual matches, fighting fiercely. In the finals, Apo-Ro faces Mino Kitchai. Apo-Ro comments that he anticipated this outcome. Mino Kitchai expresses his gratitude, saying that Apo-Ro is the reason he has become so strong. Apo-Ro reciprocates the sentiment, acknowledging their mutual growth from humble beginnings. Mino Kitchai declares his intention to defeat Apo-Ro to surpass him, and Apo-Ro challenges him to give his all. Their battle extends until evening, and in the end, Apo-Ro emerges victorious, securing first place, while Mino Kitchai takes second place. The tournament results are as follows. Dodome places 13th, Genki 12th, Redhead 11th, Gafu 10th, Steel Knight 9th, Fuki 8th, Natsuki 7th, Spellsei 6th, Blood Sato 5th, Earthy 4th, and Kanami 3rd. Apo-Ro notes that the results are not surprising, as most of the top rankers are heads of their respective squad. After the tournament, the girls serve refreshments to everyone. Apo-Ro feels a sense of pride and happiness seeing the growth and progress of everyone in his company. The next night, the princess contacts Apo-Ro, who asks her why she is calling him so late. She explains that she wants to secure his services again, and Apo-Ro remarks that this is likely to become quite an ordeal. The princess assures him it won't be, but Apo-Ro is certain she's up to something major. Through his replicants, he has learned that something is happening in the capital, though the details remain unclear. He reflects that with 400 members in his company, they should be able to handle any trouble they encounter. The princess then reveals that she wants to help him make his presence widely known throughout the kingdom, certain that increased notoriety will benefit him. The Poirot realizes she knows exactly how to appeal to him and decides to take the bait, asking her for the specifics of the mission. After learning the details, the scene shifts to a Poirot ordering his troops to set out for the capital. He mentions that he accepted the offer because of the reward, but at that moment, he had no idea just how significant this job would turn out to be. This brings an end to our episode 12. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our channel for more anime recaps.